Today, I'm going to talk about Juneteenth. More diversity, equality, and inclusion discussions have increased the number of companies observing Juneteenth as a holiday. Now, what are the next steps? Juneteenth has long been celebrated in the United States to commemorate African American Independence Day. This year, more companies are observing June 19 or Juneteenth, with the list including Nike, Lyft, Tesla, and SpaceX, MasterCard, and NATO. Facebook decided to celebrate it, canceling all meetings and engaging in conversations about the experiences that the Black community faces. The recent nationwide protests sparked by the death of George Floyd while in police custody have brought conversations about diversity, equality, and inclusion to the forefront. It's not solely a human resources task anymore. It's already part of the corporate agenda. Respect should be everyone's business. The question is how to move from statements to actions. The real benefits of DEI start when new behaviors are learned and the company culture changes to prioritize respect over power. A crisis is when corporate leaders are needed the most. In turn, leaders need to be prepared. These are specific steps you can take to start changing the culture. First, acknowledge there is a problem. You may think this is something that is not happening in your company, or maybe you have worked hard to improve diversity, but employees don't see any changes in behaviors. Mark Benioff, CEO of Salesforce, in his book Trailblazer, talks about how he tried hard to beat bias in Salesforce, but over time the gap persisted. In 2016, only 2% of Salesforce employees were African American. He says, equality is a moving target, as everyone has unconscious bias. You need to acknowledge the imbalance and work continuously to address it. Number 2, listen and speak about it. Leaders need to open themselves, listen to employees deeply, learn from them, and avoid being defensive to make corrections. Google is working to increase their Black network of counselors. Many companies encourage employees to join their equality groups or affinity groups that provide a safe space for people to connect around various aspects of their identity where they can have constructive and psychologically safe conversations. Learning that diversity, inclusion, and equality don't mean the same, it's important to identify where the company is lacking more action. Diverse means that you have the presence of differences of identity, for example, gender and people of color, throughout your organization, says expert Meg Bolger. Equality is an approach that ensures everyone accesses the same opportunities. The company has to make sure everyone has the opportunity to grow, contribute, and develop regardless of their identity. Finally, inclusion is about people with different identities feeling valued, leveraged, and welcomed in the company. Number 3, take action. So you can have a diverse team, but it doesn't mean the members feel psychologically safe to speak up and give their best. So you have to build a system that supports and promotes the behaviors required to lead a diverse workforce. Sally Helgesen, cited in Forbes as the world's premier expert on women's leadership, highlights that inclusive behaviors must be demonstrated at the leadership level or they will have no real impact. In the book Leadership in a Time of Crisis, she said this: to retain minorities in the company, diversity, equality, and inclusion needs to be embedded in the entire employee experience. Recruiting, hiring, onboarding, engaging, performing, developing, and even in the departing process. Sundar Pichai, CEO of Google and Alphabet, announced today that they're working to improve Black representation at senior levels and committing to a goal to enhance leadership representation of underrepresented groups by 30% by 2025. They will have a talent liaison to mentor and advocate for the progression and retention of Googlers from underrepresented groups. Google will also hire experts on structural inequities to provide more education and space for self-reflection. Google had a security practice of Googlers watching for tailgaters in order to reduce instances of unauthorized visitors in offices, and they realized that this process was susceptible to bias. So just an example of the company policy and how it can impact the bias of the company. Sometimes individuals are passive-aggressive without even noticing. Statements like your English is great or questions like is that your real hair can make other people feel uncomfortable in very subtle ways. People tend to be blind to their biases and tend to favor people that look or behave like them. We all do that no matter our ethnicity. So training and coaching the workforce is vital to reduce these biases. The return on investment of diversity, equality, and inclusion is big. While many companies are still struggling with the Juneteenth movement and prefer the status quo, other companies are already capturing the benefits of a culture that includes diversity, equality, and inclusion. A McKinsey study showed that companies in the top quartile for racial, ethnic diversity were 35% more likely to have financial returns above their national industry median. So these are some of the benefits. Increase psychological safety for everyone. You can have a diverse team of talent, but that doesn't mean that feels valued or psychologically safe to speak their mind. Psychologically safety was found to be one of the major factors for a team to be successful. So it means that all the team members feel safe to be themselves. Therefore, they can unleash all their talent. Everyone can feel threatened. Stress is significantly reduced from the environment promotes respect and support to others. More points of view bring more into innovation. That's another benefit. The most innovative companies value diversity, especially in a company where 90% of the employees are engineers, for example. You can bring different points of view by hiring people from different origins, cultures, and languages and boost innovation. Besides, women and minorities are key consumer decision makers and can bring new perspectives to the table. The other benefit is an increased talent pool. On the one hand, minorities will look for companies that respect them and give them same opportunities. On the other hand, once your workforce is trained to reduce their biases, they will be able to find talent in individuals that they would have ignored in the past. So what are your next steps? There are many barriers that companies have that prevent people from feeling equal. It's time to review the entire employee experience of a minority and identify process weaknesses. Statements are what we say we do, but culture is what we do. So companies need to build diversity, equality, and inclusion into the culture. More innovation and resilience to change are possible in a company where employees' differences are respected and ideas can be freely expressed. Thank you very much.